What is up, you guys? Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're not. It's me, Reese, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about Genshin Impact. To put it simply, we're going to go through a few different topics as it pertains to Genshin, all because it has been requested for me to come back on Genshin, and the idea was posed to me to just simply start over and play that way. However, I feel like it's important to talk about why I left and different aspects of the game as this conversation got started in the channel's Discord chat. Feel free to join that. So just enjoy me talking about my experience with Genshin, why I left, why it's very hard for me to come back, and different other opinions that I have about the game that I feel like would be a good preface to me going back into playing the game for those who are interested in watching me play that. So if any of that interests you, join the party chat, and I'm gonna roll the intro. So I'd like to start at the beginning, just so you guys can understand how much I truly did enjoy this game before I give it the criticism that will follow within this video. It all started my senior year of high school, still at peak COVID times. Can I say COVID? I think we should be able to say COVID. It was a thing. It was a very big part of my life because it did drastically change the way I experienced my last couple of years of school because of COVID times and quarantine and things. My experience was a lot different than probably what most people's will be going forward and what most people's were like pre-COVID times. And for me, it was my senior year. Well, I can't remember what year. Anyway, but it was the year that Genshin was obviously going to release. It was pretty darn close to the start of my senior school year. So those of you who know when that was a thing that happened probably know what date I'm talking about. It was something that I was told about, and there was a whole pre-registration bonus. I then told one of my friends about it. There was a little glip there where nothing really happened. The game eventually came out, right? And this was in a time where I was trying to go back to school normal, but the anxiety that came with that after having a whole long period of being isolated and not interacting with people and not being out in society was a lot. And eventually I ended up doing the entirety of my senior year from home because it just wasn't working out for me. So here I am, I'm homeschooled now, and Genshin comes out. Well, I have to give all of that background just so that it's clear how I was able to play Genshin so often and the headspace I was in as well whenever it first came out and I was playing it. Like, being isolated, I don't think I was talking to a whole lot of my friends at the time. I was in this antisocial quarantine homeschool phase where the main thing I would look forward to after finishing the painfully easy online courses for school was playing Genshin Impact. So I was playing it quite literally every day. I would play it before having to go to my laptop to do my online courses, and then I would go right after I was done with them, and I would quite literally rush through, just find the answers on the internet, copy and paste, and then go play Genshin. This was my life for pretty much my entire senior year, non-stop playing Genshin Impact. And so obviously I was pretty hardcore, pretty dedicated. I had my favorite characters and things. And what I really enjoyed probably most about the game was was the open world aspect of it, and the fact that I never really ran out of things to do, so it would make my days pass by a lot faster than they would have otherwise, because I was busy thrusting myself into this really cool world, and they were constantly doing updates, adding things to do, events, and all of that. And on top of that, the story was unfinished. Now, I want to say that this was something that was bad, but the reason why I'm not going to say that is because I feel like I would have been long done with the game at that, if it was during that time where I was playing it nonstop, if the whole story had been out right away. But the story not all being out, and updates being what you need in order to continue the story and get new content, is really what kept me playing, to be quite honest with you. Because had the story been out during a time where I have no life other than Genshin Impact, I would have been done with it. But all the content wasn't out. So this is something that does become a trickier thing later on down in my timeline, but at this point in time, it was actually a good thing because it kept my interest maintained, because once I would finish up with everything to do, just in the nick of time, they'd be releasing more content for me to play. What I also really enjoyed about Genshin was the comedy. Yes, it has its serious aspects of the story, and I do have some of my qualms with certain things about the story that didn't pan out the way that I feel like they should have or could have. But all in all, the writing, thanks to, I would say, Paimon, who was one of my favorite characters, made the story really funny. I really liked how at times the story didn't take itself too seriously, or the things that I would have probably called out or made some kind of joke or quip about, Paimon would beat me to it or say exactly what was on my mind. And therefore, I really liked a lot of the writing of a lot of the character chapters and things like that in Genshin, which changes later, but we'll get there. So, mind you, at the start, I'm playing every single day. I am really enjoying the game. Well, another thing about Genshin is this. If you have never played Genshin before, it is technically a gacha game where you need primo gems in order to pull for 4-star and 5-star characters in the game. This is obviously a cool factor, I guess you could say, but for me personally, not so much, because I am a senior in high school, keep in mind. I'm not good with my money yet. I'm not smart, I'm not financially literate. We'll say that. And so the first reason of why I eventually stopped playing Genshin was simply the fact that I was becoming addicted to gambling. Yes, I am serious. It sounds bad. I will say it is bad, but I was able to stop playing the game, which means it wasn't too bad, but I was literally becoming addicted to gambling. Even if I didn't care about the banner per se, or I already got what I wanted, I could not stop myself from pulling on the banners. I couldn't stop myself from it. And every time I got some money, it would go straight into Genshin. And if I just think back at the sheer amount that I spent on Genshin, everything I could have done with that, it was pretty bad. So that was part of the first reason. The second reason why I quit was because eventually I got tired of waiting. So it got to a point eventually where what I was waiting for was for the update to come where you could play Inazuma. Well, that update took significantly long. And so much so, I pretty much felt like I seen everything there was to see as far as the exploration of the worlds went. And I didn't feel like there was anything else keeping me because I had no interest in the characters that they were introducing in the meantime and different story stuff that was going on in the meantime. While I can't remember what the mountain is called. Cold Mountain, I don't know, it's called Dragon Spine, Dragon something. It was the one where Albedo got released, and I found him to be an extremely dull and boring character. And that kind of brought down a notch my personal opinion on characters getting released, because he was the first one where I was like, I really don't like this character. I did not care for this character one bit. Obviously, there were some others that I didn't care for, but they weren't the ones that there's a huge focus on. And I found him to be so dull. Eventually, he grows on me, but that's not until after when it's time to came back. So there was him, and then every character that followed, I think 3 banners. I'm not 100%. This was years ago, so my memory's not as peak as it once was as far as that goes, but then the banners coming after him, I didn't really care for either. And I had built up the characters I wanted to build up to the extent that I felt was warranted at the time. And so frankly, I felt like there was nothing to do. So not necessarily nothing to do, but nothing I was interested in doing. And then to go along with that, I also was in the process of acknowledging that I am bad with my money, and this game is making that 10 times worse. To go along with the first time that I left Genshin, let's talk about pay to win, right? There are quite a few mobile games and other free games that are essentially very pay to win, or at least like your experience as a player is so drastically different from someone who's not paying anything if you're paying something, and vice versa, right? Is Genshin one of those kinds of games? My opinion on this is mixed. Here's why. And I have not played the game without paying for anything. However, a substantial amount of primo gems and other character materials can be accumulated without paying for anything. And during the times where I first came back, that is how I was primarily gaining the ability to pull on banners, because when I first came back, I was like, I'm not going to spend any money on this thing. I'll come back, but I'm not going to spend any money on it. Did I stick to that? No, because this is why my opinion is mixed. They do a good job of enticing you and knowing what kind of stuff you might want or need. Just in my opinion. Now, if it's different for you and you have better self-control, or you aren't super dedicated so you don't care about buying the weapon material bundles and stuff like that, that's you. But in my humble opinion, I think they do such a good job of making you want to buy the stuff in spite of it not necessarily being pay to win. It's literally, if you don't want to pay, there are so many. And when I say so many, I truly mean that. There are so many ways to get primo gems that you need to pull on banners without paying a single cent. However, if you really get into it, it makes you want to pay that cent, even though you don't need to. To achieve anything you want to achieve, you do not have to pay for anything. But they do a really good job of enticing you to do so. I would say the only thing that I would consider a necessary thing is paying for the battle pass, which other games have that as well, that in my opinion are not pay to win. Destiny is a good example. It just makes it where it's like, as you accomplish things in the game, you earn stuff, and honestly, it's worth the money. But overall, I don't necessarily think the game is pay to win. I don't. But what I do feel is that they do a really good job. I don't know what kind of psychological whatevers they use. They do a really good job at making you want to buy things still, even though you can have a good experience without buying anything, if that makes sense. So it's a free game and does hold true to that. But what they offer you is just something that's very obviously enticing. So there's that. I just think if you play it long enough, you're going to want to pay for something. And that's just my personal opinion. But then let's get into me coming back and then leaving again, because that happened a few times and I don't remember each time. So I'm just going to talk about it in a general sense, why I left and came back a lot. So here we go. When I first initially left Genshin, I left the game, I know for a fact, over a year, possibly 2. So 1 or 2 years, I left the game for a while. And so one day I see my bro playing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Genshin? Like, wow. Because I'm seeing new characters and he's exploring a new world and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's it like now anyway? Basically, that's what happened. And so I get updated on it and it's like, oh, maybe I should come back. And then it's like, we have a dialogue and I decide I'll come back and play too. And so I do. However, This is where it becomes a lot more challenging for me because, mind you, I was not playing this for a while, obviously, and so I'm out of the loop. Remember at the beginning of this video, I told you guys they would release story and updates and things like that. Well, by this point, a lot of that had happened. And a lot of it I was not there for. There was a lot for me to catch up on. And at first, I was quite dedicated to doing this. At the time, I wasn't doing anything in particular. I wasn't working or anything in particular. I'm just at home, once again. Call back to the beginning of the story. Except now I'm an adult. And so I have time on my hands. But here's the problem. We're going to get into this problem. It starts with an I, and I already referenced it. And so that problem for me was Inazuma. Remember before I said that's what I was waiting on at the time where I quit? Well, actually getting to experience it, personally, I was not a fan. I wasn't a fan of the plot, wasn't a fan of the characters really. The writing felt very broken in the side quests and things like that. And also, I didn't like it. I didn't like the world design. This is just my opinion. You are entitled to yours. But I did not like the world design of Inazuma either. Wasn't really a huge fan of the music, which is something I was a huge fan of with the other places. I just overall really wasn't a fan. Now, obviously, as I explored more, there were some areas of Inazuma where I did actually like the music and I did like the design. But overall, definitely not as much as I liked Liyue and Mondstadt. Just not even close. And what was very odd to me was that a lot of the dialogue, which, if you recall me saying in the beginning, was something I really enjoyed about this game, was really bad. Objectively speaking, a lot of it made no sense. And so it was really a little bit of a letdown. But here's the other aspect of this. By this time, it was not just Inazuma that was out. It was also, what's the place called? Sumeru, the one where Dendro gets introduced into the picture. And that one was so beautiful. The music, amazing. But story-wise, I'm in Inazuma. But I really want to get to Sumeru because Inazuma to me sucks, but Sumeru is like, oh my god, this is amazing. And it did capture what I loved about the other two places, where I feel like Inazuma was just somewhat of a misstep. Because think about it, at the time, there was a lot more new players, they're getting a lot of people. I'm sure it was harder to handle everything and to really quality check everything, but Inazuma to me was just so bad. I was really struggling. I really wanted to catch up to where my bro was at and continue on together, but it was so hard because Inazuma just sucked all around to me. None of it stuck out to me, none of it appealed. This is a game where, similar to how I tell you guys all of the time, I really enjoy Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I feel like the side quests are part of what makes the game. I feel the same way about Genshin, where I do feel like the side quests are part of what makes the game in a very big way. And I felt like in Inazuma, because of that broken English that was there with the side quests, I didn't understand them. I didn't understand what was going on. So it was hard for me to find enjoyment even in doing those, and I found myself just clicking through after a point, just trying to hurry up and just get things over with and get my primo gems and get the F out. There was one quest that I found to be really interesting, even though there were still some aspects of broken English or just poor English. It was this one about this island where they ended up sacrificing this young boy. That's a conversation for another time. But anyway, that one was really good and really compelling for me. But other than that, the side quests were pretty bad. Inazuma as a nation, it just had this negative aura, which obviously I think was intentional based on what the story was about, but it had this overwhelmingly negative aura that was a little bit draining, and so I just wasn't a fan. And being overwhelmed with the amount of quests that I had to do in order to catch up, I eventually fell off again. But I did play consistently for a while at that time. So I fall off again, and I don't come back until Fontaine comes around, I believe. And what happened there? I think eventually I just got bored. Because I was like, well, There were certain bosses and stuff that I didn't have unlocked that I needed in order to like continue leveling up the talents and stuff like that of certain characters that I wanted to build, but I did not have those bosses. And in order to get them, I would have to go through the story, and I did not like where I was at with the story, because mind you, I'm still sitting on Inazuma. To this day, I am still sitting on Inazuma, 60% through Inazuma, or something along those lines. I am not far. And so I'm like, I don't really want to do that. So then I'm like, but there's other things I can do. I can fill my map and all that. And so that's what kept me playing Fontaine for a while. Once that was done, I don't know, I enjoyed the quests that were coming up. I enjoyed the events and things like that, but overall eventually I just was like, there's so much more I would like to do but can't unless I do something that I'm really dreading, and then eventually I fell off again. So ultimately Inazuma was the whole reason why I stopped playing for so long, and it's just not great. Now I know there's probably people, because Genshin has such a huge fan base, that will definitely not meld with my opinions, but again, I'm going to reiterate, they're my opinions, so get over it. You can have your own. I have mine, and I'm entitled to mine, just like you're entitled to yours. You can share your opinions, you can disagree with me. If there's something you liked about Inazuma, please tell me what you liked about it, because maybe it'll like give me a silver lining to look at as I go back into Genshin again. So let's talk me returning to Genshin then. So here's the thing, I do think it would be a really fun thing for my particular viewers to watch me play, and I know there's someone who really wants me to return. And like I said at the beginning, it was posed to me to just start completely over and just see the game how it is now, which will definitely be a cool thing to do. It will feel less overwhelming because I am aware I am starting over and that I'll probably never make it to where the updates currently are. And also I'll get to see how they change certain things, because they added a lot of features to Genshin since I played it at its inception. And so I know the beginning probably feels a lot different, and I am interested in experiencing that. And I do happen to have a second account, in which you won't know about this unless you are a true OG, to where I had 10 subscribers, but the PlayStation account where I was playing Honkai Star Rail on the channel, I can start a new thing on Genshin. So going into doing so, I would love to play with you guys and to just experience it with my viewers and everything like that. But here are the things that I am thinking of as cons. One, I will not have the same characters that I have on my other account. So on my other account, all the characters I wanted, I have. And there's no guarantee they will come around again. So that's one thing. It will be a totally different base of characters that I'm starting with and I'm building, which I can also look at as a con, as a pro and not a con, because it'll switch things up for me, because I did have my characters that I would constantly use because they were my aces. But if I had different aces, would that be so bad? I don't really think so. Another thing is just that obviously the characters that are going to be on the banners for the most part, I assume, are newer. And I really was a fan of Zhongli, and I don't know if that will come around again. It's weird to think that so many years have gone by. I know I'm a totally different person now, but anyway. It will be definitely interesting to see how the game feels going into it after so much has been added and so much has changed within it. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And I will do it as its own series on the channel, but pretty much I'm just anticipating not being able to have access to the same 5-star characters that I spent so much money trying to get and put so much effort into building. That's the only reason why the idea of just starting over never crossed my mind before. But now it's more of a cool idea because I have an audience now, and so starting over, it won't feel like such a drag seeing a lot of things already seen again, because I'll get to see them with you guys and talk with you guys as I'm seeing and experiencing things again. And I might have new opinions on these things now because so much time has gone by. But would I have considered starting over when I initially first came back? No. But now I'm like, you know what, that could be good, right? And there's Another thing that brought this about was playing Grand Festival with you guys and feeling how fun it is to do an event with the party chat. Y'all are a blast. And I was just like, man, if only there was more events I could do. And then I remembered just how many events that Genshin does, and a lot of them are enjoyable and fun. And I'm like, they'd probably be really fun for us to do together. So I guess it's gonna be a new series. Obviously, there's some things I'm debating about it. I don't think I will necessarily do my full-on setup. And the only reason why is because Genshin has so much content. If I really want to show you guys the full extent of what it looks like me playing Genshin, I just don't think I can be on camera at the same time. Mostly because the long hours that will come around with starting over on there. The long hours will be crazy. I do really miss playing the Spiral Abyss, and I do think I was pretty freaking good at that, so I want to be good at that again and show you guys. But I don't think I can do it all on camera, so it'll be the first series where you guys just get a voiceover from me. So I hope you guys like that. And so that pretty much concludes my whole journey with Genshin. To preface before I start playing it again, it gives you an idea of what I do and don't know about the game. Some things I'll be blind to, and then some things I will not be blind to at all and will already know about, and so you guys get an idea of the timeline in which I'm knowledgeable and where I stopped, what I like, what I don't like. I really like the funny stuff. I would get more into my feelings about how I feel about the story in and of itself, but I feel like the story takes a back seat to everything else. But maybe I won't feel that way if I ever get past Inazuma. But I think that's pretty much it. I feel like there could be more to say because it just was such a long journey with that game, but I tried to summarize it the best I could and give you guys an idea of what to expect going into me playing it on the channel for you guys as a series. I think I'll be able to balance everything. We'll talk more about it in time, but I think that's gonna do it for me. So peace out, you guys.